assertiveness, this intensity that has to exist to be able to get over the hump when things are difficult. Now the collision is that many entrepreneurs make the mistake of assuming that they are, you know, the king at the top of the hill and they don't need anybody else. So I've always believed in this concept of servant leadership, where the more you serve others, the more people will respect you and the more people will do things for you. I mean, it's not a novel concept, but it requires you checking your ego at the door and saying, you know what? I mean, like for me, I don't care about my title, guys. I'll clean toilets. I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's fine. Somebody's got to be at the top. I'll do that. And I don't have a problem making these tough decisions. I'm used to that. I've dealt with that. But at the end of the day, I get the most enjoyment when my staff on either company is rocking it or are doing things and solving problems that, you know, I'm letting them take the path. And I'm letting them go to the destination, and sometimes they might flop, and that's okay. Patience. Again, bringing people in, serving them. Customers, same way. You know, if you've got a great customer relationship, if you use that concept of servant leadership, oh man, I don't care if you're an employee or an entrepreneur, people will take notice of that because you're not trying to do it for yourself. You're trying to do it for others. And you will get a tenfold return when you do it for others because it will come back to you. So servant leadership. I talked about determination, perseverance. Again, the concept behind the garage door thing. The concept is when you're in a jam. You know, I've had multiple times this year where, you know, there's always ebbs and flows with cash flow. And my financial manager would say, Jay, I need $10,000 of down payment money in my hand in 4 days. Go. I'd be like, okay. Then I'm off. Okay? That sucks. I'm not saying that's enjoyable. And you obviously have to financially correct the way you manage your business, but no matter how much you do to make it perfect, you're going to run into situations where the finances are tough. So you have to be determined, which gets into another one of my topics here, my points, is to not panic, to say, okay, we got a crisis, I need this much money, I'm going to look into my sales pipeline, I'm going to look into those contacts that have verbal commitments or close or just over the hump. I'm going to start backing in what I need to do. I'm going to set goals. I'm going to manage my successes every single day. And I tell you what, by the grace of God, every time I did that, it worked. And we got through it. And people got paid. But again, the key was, again, you've got this extremely large obstacle, which is just the nature of entrepreneurship. I mean, there's so much fun parts and there's creative parts. But I tend to preach so much about the other side, which is it's not romantic. It can be awesome and rewarding, but you have to be willing. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to, you know, we're all going to run a marathon. Okay? That's being a business owner. And you run like 10. And clearly, when you get to the top of that marathon, you feel like you're awesome. But then it means you got to go run another one. So I think that's kind of the cycle of the way I look at owning a business, is that for me, I have to set my sights on the success of where it's going to take a while. It's not just going to happen overnight. But what I am going to do, though, is recognize the small little nuggets of performance. So if I'm a runner and I'm tracking mileage, okay, I like to do running. I ran cross country. And I would say, okay, well, golly, I'm going to run 150 miles in the next 45, 60 days, whatever. And I'm going to track every day. And then you can start seeing how you're chipping, how you're chopping wood, how you're getting further and further to progress. Again, this seems so stupid, but I'm telling you, psychologically, when you are as an owner and as an entrepreneur, if you don't take the time to pay attention to the progress that you are making, you will feel like you're never making progress. You'll sit there and you'll be like, God, it just sucks every day. Wait, no. Let's think about how it was 3 months ago. You are making progress. Now you're growing up, you know. Now I'm just not a toddler. I always joke, Turbine, which is the other business I'll say, and Cinnamon Social's a baby, and Turbine is a toddler, which is turning into a grade schooler here soon. Okay, when you're a toddler, you know, I've got a daughter that's 3 years old. She's incredibly awesome and incredibly terrible at the same time. She does a lot of cool things and a lot of bad things. Turbine's the same way. But if we pay attention to what we're making mistakes on, and we learn, we keep getting better, you know, and inevitably then, yeah, you want to be able to be in a position where you're doing the right stuff. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is kind of like dovetails off of the whole idea of the pressure situation is the pressure you can experience can be like head in the vice, and it is. And that's where it requires a very calm, a very collected demeanor. You cannot panic. That's what my dad used to say. Well, Jay, crap's going down. Panic's a great option, huh? No, it's not a good idea. Or he'd say, you can, bitch about the problem, or you can do something about it. I mean, these seem like cliches, but I'm telling you, they are like gospel, man. They are so true. Because when you're in this panic situation, and frankly, this can help you in any part of your life. You learn that, when things are tough, you can rest and assure that saying, you know what, things will get better if I just focus on figuring things out. So definitely, again, delivering under pressure, being okay with it. We've had 4 people come into Turbine that wanted to be a partner or an operations person with them. All 4 of them have failed. The number one reason, they couldn't handle the pressure. They loved it, were good friends with them, but they could not handle the pressure of being so exposed that if they screwed up, all these people would basically point fingers at them. And I can't like artificially create that for someone. But I would say that that's just part of the game. There's a pressure component. And again, the sooner you learn how to manage that, the sooner you can teach other people and ultimately create a culture that spreads that pressure and spreads those challenges across the board. And that's what you see companies grow and how the different departments and divisions manifest themselves. It's for managing those expectations, managing the delivery of your product or service so that it's consistent with what you're charging for. Something I did not do, but it's part of my point, is when I was in school, like you guys, and I was going through entrepreneurship class, I did not spend enough time on financials. I should have literally soaked up every second of every single accounting class. And I only took 1, and I should have taken 10. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I believe we always had great ideas, and we continue to come up with good ideas. I love the kind of thinking and the unique perspective that Turbine and Cinnamon Social provides, which I'll share a little bit. But ultimately, if you don't create a financially sustainable model, it's gone. Like that. And I had a very smart entrepreneur that was in charge of the department, who was a mentor of mine. That's what he told me. He said in 5 words, okay, I gotta change my thinking. So now I'm very passionate. I'm an artsy-fartsy guy that likes techie that now likes finance. And some of it was out of necessity, but I started to learn that if you're going to manage that pressure and you understand the numbers will give you insight on decisions you have to make. If you don't pay attention to the numbers, you can't make good decisions. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Every single CEO will tell you the same thing. The numbers determine their ability to evolve and adapt. Whether you're Google or whether you're a little mom and pop shop, it makes no difference. Now, sometimes you can create what I call more aggressive decision-making principles on the numbers. So it's kind of that, how much is enough? For some, the margins, especially in publicly traded companies, very high, very ruthless. It's either you perform or you're out, period. Now, I think when you get into what I call lifestyle businesses, you have a little bit more gray area there, but still, it has to be profitable, okay? So I think the sooner, and had I learned that, guys, I probably would have saved 5 years, and I ultimately would have been able to get my first company, Agelon, which I had for 9 years, off the ground even sooner and more successful, had I understood truly the numbers. The other thing we talked a little bit here, I just mentioned, relationships. On the one hand, the impersonal part of business is the money, is the finance. It is very black and white. It does not lie. Okay? It doesn't give you a hug. It doesn't tell you good job. It will tell you whether you're doing great or whether you're sucking. And it is what it is. And you can choose to ignore that or pay attention. On the flip side, I've always believed that business fundamentally is derived. This goes back to when I was 19. It's derived from the fundamental desire to have a trusted relationship between a business professional, or in this case, the company and the client, or the company and the employee. It's the ABCs of how we work. Now, through all of that, things get lost in translation. And there's issues, I'm sure all of you have had, parents have good jobs, bad bosses, laid off, all the different stuff. So it is complicated. But to me, it's one of those clarifying components, whereas, you know, if you do value, truly, we call it the brand promise at Turbine. I only represent companies in our digital marketing sphere that truly back up what they're going to say. Social media, which is the whole industry I'm in, if you don't back it up, you'll get smoked. Now for me, that was why I became an entrepreneur again, guys. Because all of a sudden social media created this necessity that you had to bring up your A game. And if you did not, you had to admit it. And if you didn't, you were going to get slaughtered. Twitter, I don't care, Facebook, Google Places, Yelp, whatever. I mean, again, there's awful things about social media, but there's also the other counterbalance, which is that it creates a checks and balance system. And on top of that, it rewards these small businesses that do. Golly, every small business I talk to in Lincoln, it's like, for crying out loud, they're busting their chops, they're trying to do a good job, and nobody knows. So there's a mouthpiece. Hey, guess what, world? I do. You know what? We're trying good. And all of a sudden everybody just gets into the conversation and they're hanging out and they're having fun. And now everybody knows about that. So this relationship thing is extended from just face-to-face to obviously in the social sphere. And for you guys, like my disruption, okay, the internet disrupted the entire facet of communications and information that was absorbed forever, okay? And we're still trying to, as a world, understand the brevity of what that meant. Now, you guys are involved in the whole social revolution. And it is changing astronomically everything about digital relationship engagement and the way that people connect now in a more personal fashion, even if they're not necessarily face-to-face. So between what you guys are experiencing and what I've experienced, we're talking like a 180-degree pivot of what's been going down. It's freaking confusing. I'm telling you, businesses that are right now, they have no idea what the hell to do. They don't know. And that's obviously where we come in and say, look, okay, I know you're confused. I know that everybody's telling you that you need to have a site with a blog, or you need to do all these videos, or you need a Facebook. Let's just stop. Let's calm down. Let's look at this and let's decide, do you really need it? Is your audience over here hanging out on Twitter, or maybe it's Instagram, or maybe it's Pinterest? Doesn't matter. Let's figure out what they need to do. So this confusion, I guess what I'm trying to tell you guys is, I don't know, whatever business you're doing, if you understand this, the greater context, I am not kidding. This is insane what has happened in the last 15 years. It is changing the world forever. And it's just starting. I'm probably going to screw up my stats, but there's like 7 billion people on the world. And I believe only 3 billion have access to the internet. That's 5 billion people that don't yet. Imagine what it's going to be like when 5 billion people get on. As an entrepreneur, holy freaking schmoly, you got more opportunities, you know what to do with it. That is what I mean. Things are changing. An entrepreneur identifies change and goes there to take advantage of that opportunity and solve a problem. My other company, Cinnamon Social, and again, please check out our stuff.
Yeah, why don't you hit the finish attendance right there? Oh, right, nope, down here first. Finish attendance, yep. Now go up there and...
Okay, so the combo of Turbine and Cinnamon, I'll try to keep this contained because I'm going to give time for questions. So Turbine was